What's up, everybody? It's JJ Buckets here, and we are gonna talk basketball.
He gets it ahead for Van Vliet. Anunoby, lane opens up. The crank. OG Anunoby.
Now, for today's video, I'm gonna continue this project to do the mini series of just analyzing some of the top prospects in this year's draft. And I'm super excited for today's video. It's gonna be Evan Mobley, in case you couldn't guess by the thumbnail. But yeah, I'm going to cover him today because, still hoping this team ends up in the lottery, despite the fact that, as of the recording of this video, they've ripped off 4 straight wins and are fighting for that 10 spot. It's fun. It's fun. The Wizards have the easiest schedule left in the NBA out of the teams competing for the 10 spot. It's fun. So yeah, I'm just gonna cover Evan Mobley's draft profile here. Now, in case you didn't see the first video and you want to know how it works, I'm gonna break it down to 5 subtopics. It's gonna be strengths, weaknesses, the fit with the Raptors, the case for drafting the player, and then the case against. So without further ado, let's hop into the video. So we're gonna start off with the strengths here, and I think there's a lot to talk about with Evan Mobley that I'm excited about. I think he's a good low post scorer. I think in particular, he's got so many ways to finish with, I'd say, his right hand especially, where he has like a little push shot that he's really good at out of the post. He's got a nice little hook shot that he can hit as a low post threat. He also has a little bit of a floater game too, which I think is really neat. I think he's going to be a tremendous low post scorer. Obviously, he can stretch the court with his shot. I think with the right coaching staff, which in this case, like the Raptors have, he's going to have no problem developing that part of his game at the NBA level. And I think it's such a plus to have somebody that can stretch the court at the 5 spot position. I think it opens up so much for your offense, and I think Evan Mobley can absolutely do that. I think Evan Mobley has really good footwork, and he's very skilled, which I think is a great sign from a young, big man prospect, because with a lot of these guys, they come in raw, and that's something that you really need to work on with bigs. I don't think that's going to be a problem with Evan Mobley whatsoever. I also think he's just really good at positioning himself offensively. I'd say just to get a lot of easy buckets. He knows kind of when to space out. He knows, how to be a lob threat and like when to move off ball to put himself just in the right spot. I think that was something that really stood out with me when I was watching his tape. Another thing that stood out to me was his passing ability for the 5 spot is impressive. It is. I think he has good vision. I think you can make an argument that he sees a play ahead, and I think that's going to bode very well. When he gets doubled or when there's extra traffic on him, I think he's good at finding the open guy for their shots, and I think that's invaluable, again, especially at the 5-man position. I think that's a tremendous gift to have in your arsenal. Speaking of gifts in his arsenal, obviously super athletic and mobile. Get it? Mobley, mobile, mobility. I'm funny, I swear. Yeah, he's got that going for him, and it translates to him being a very good defender. I think he's going to be a tremendous shot blocker at the NBA level. I think he's going to have a chance to be a switchable defender at the NBA level as well, which I think is a great sign, because you're not really as worried about, him getting played off the court in a playoff series, for example, like some of these other guys. Not to take shots here or anything, but like a Rudy Gobert, you worry about certain groups and lineups potentially taking Gobert off the court. I don't think you would really have to worry about that as much with Evan Mobley. And honestly, looking at him, I've heard the Chris Bosh comparisons. I do kind of like them, but honestly, I also see some shades of Kevin Garnett in Evan Mobley's game, and I think that's a tremendous compliment, especially coming from me. That it's not something I really talk about a lot, but I'm a huge KG fan. I thought he was a tremendous player, tremendous pro. So there's a lot to like about Mobley. I think with the right team and with the right coaching staff and player development, which I think the Raptors obviously have in this case, he can really develop into a superstar at the NBA level. I absolutely think that's going to be the ceiling for him. So next one I want to talk about Evan Mobley's weaknesses. And before I get into the glaringly obvious, I want to talk about one that's like maybe a little nitpicky. I don't like how reliant he is on his right hand. Especially low post scoring specifically is something I noticed watching a lot of scoring plays. He's very good at scoring with his right hand, and I don't want to say he doesn't have a left because there's obviously tape of him scoring with his left down low as well. It's just, I feel like there's way too many moments that stood out to me where, you know, say he made a move to the left and he still tried scoring with his right hand, where, you know, kind of naturally in that situation you want to be able to score with your left hand as well, or at least I'd like to see him use it a little bit more. This is kind of a nitpicky thing, but I think at the NBA level you're gonna need that. You're gonna need to be able to use your offhand, which, you know, in this case is very clear his left is not as comfortable for him as his right, and I just think that's something he's gonna have to overcome. Again, it's a little bit of a nitpicky thing, and I think it's absolutely something that can be worked on, but just I'd like to see him use his left a little bit more, especially when going to that side. It just looks awkward when, you know, you're spinning to the left and then like you're still trying to finish with the right, and it makes the shot just a lot more blockable by the defender, for one. For two, it's just gonna be a lot more contested. I know it's a little nitpicky, but I do think that's a thing that kind of stood out to me a little bit. Past that, there's the obvious, right? His physicality, I'd say, is a little bit of an issue. You know, he's maybe a little too passive when it comes to creating his own offense because of that, I think. And obviously when he fills out his frame, I do think this is a problem that will probably go away. It's just, he obviously needs to fill out his frame, and again, like most of these young guys do, so I think that's the thing that will just come with time. And then the other one here is just kind of an extension off that, where I do think he struggles kind of with bigger, stronger players a little bit. Again, I think that's a thing that gets fixed over time, but right off the bat in the NBA, if he's coming off, or like if he's coming in with that, you know, slender build, I do think that's going to be an issue. So next up, it's Evan Mobley's fit with the Raptors, and I feel like this is a really easy talking point for the most part. He slides right into the center position. I do think, you know, you can have him as a starter right off the bat at that 5 spot. He obviously fills that need for the Raptors, although shout out to Kem Birch. I think he's been solid in that role. But I mean, Evan Mobley's somebody that has superstar potential, so I think he slots in. I think he has a lot of things to his game that really complement what the Raptors try to do. Obviously, I've talked about before in the past, I know anybody that watches the Raptors knows that if you're able to stretch that court at that 5 spot, that's something the Raptors absolutely love. And Evan Mobley can absolutely do that for you. And obviously his passing is something that I think will fit in really well on the Raptors with a team that likes to move the ball. I think that's such, you know, a good addition for them on that end. And then on the defensive end, you know, his added rim protection and his blocking, I think is going to be something that will be really fun to see with the starting lineup. I think, you know, if we're projecting for the future, Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, and Evan Mobley is a fun lineup to think about for sure. I think it's a lineup that has a chance to be really special in a few years, especially when like Evan Mobley really starts hitting his stride, Gary Trent Jr. really starts hitting his stride, and then obviously OG, everybody's just kind of like peaking. Yeah. Yeah, that is a fun lineup to think about. Case for drafting Evan Mobley. I think this is a fairly easy one. It doesn't need much explanation, so I'll give you a quick one here. Your biggest team need is center. Evan Mobley can play the 5 spot. Evan Mobley has future superstar potential. Do I need to say that much more? I mean, you go from having kind of a negative at that spot for most of the year, with all due respect to Aaron Baines, to having a potential game changer at that spot, and that's a really super exciting thought. I think if the Raptors are lucky enough to end up in the top 4, with exception of the number 1 pick, because if you're number 1, you're obviously taking Cade. I think if you're anywhere 2 to 4 and Evan Mobley's on the board, that is absolutely your guy. I think he slots in really well on this team, and he really gives them a chance to, take things to the next level and be a competitive team in the Eastern Conference again. Not a title contender by any means right off the bat, but when everybody's peaking, oh yeah. Oh, this team could be good. Damn good. Next up is the case against drafting Evan Mobley, and I gotta admit, it's not a strong one here. Obviously, if you're number 1, you're not taking him, you're taking Cade. That's a case against. I guess the only other one I could really kind of pull out here is Jalen Green might be a more immediate contributor to this team. With his scoring, could add a lot on the perimeter, and could potentially be somebody that's a closer for this team with his scoring and his ability to create. But I don't see that as a strong enough case against. I think Evan Mobley is just, it's a hand-in-glove fit, truly, for Toronto if they get a chance to take this guy. It really is. So what does everybody think? Is Evan Mobley the second best prospect in this draft behind Cade Cunningham? Because I think you can absolutely make the case for it, and I think it's an easy case to make for the Raptors picking him should they be in a spot to do it. Comment below and let me know your thoughts on him in general as a prospect, or who you might like better. I promise there'll be a lot more of these videos coming up. I'm super excited to just do this series and go through all of these prospects, where hopefully the Raptors will be to draft, because the Wizards are going to take the 10 seed. It feels so weird rooting against my team to win, I'm not going to lie to you, but yeah, bigger picture, I guess. Comment below, give me all that. Like the video, it really helps the content reach a bigger audience, and I really appreciate it every time you folks do it. Other than that, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. I'd love to have you stick around. And yeah, I believe that does it for me today, and I am out of here.